All right, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Urban Agenda Program Informational Webinar on November 30th, 2020. I'm Assistant Program Manager Kevin Staley, and presenting will be Assistant Secretary for Communities and Programs, Juan Vega. Before we begin, I just wanted to give you a quick a few instructions about the presentation here. But we will be recording so that we have a record of this for the website. And just to let you know, on the side will be a question and answer option for you to type out any questions you have during the program or during the presentation. At the end, we will try to answer as many questions as possible, so feel free to add your questions as we go along. Without further ado, I'll have Assistant Secretary Juan Vega start the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Urban Agenda Grant Program information session for the FY2021 round. I want to, on behalf of Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, and HED Secretary Keneally, thank you for your interest in the Urban Agenda Program. This is another opportunity for our office to be able to partner with community organizations to carry out important community economic development work. I will take this opportunity, as Kevin has already mentioned, we are recording this session in order to have it available for those that weren't able to attend. If you are on this call, presumably you are a community member or community leader or organization individual that may be interested. This presentation is designed for any of the participants and community organizations in any of the eligible communities to be able to learn more about the program, this year's round, and specifics about the RFP and the application. So I will start the presentation now. We want to, first want to just take the opportunity to introduce our team at HED, the Community Programs and Resources Office. As was already mentioned, I'm Juan Vega, Assistant Secretary for Communities and Programs. Our Deputy Director for Community Economic Development, Mark Horn, is a member of the team. And then we have Jacqueline Furtado, Nicholas Bullens, John Wei Tomi, and Kevin Staley, who opened up our session today. Most of you will have maybe familiar with John Wei, who's been interacting as a program officer with a lot of the grantees this year, and will continue to do so going forward.
Good morning, everyone.
So I will start by just a quick outline of our intention with this presentation. We will do a very brief overview of the program, review some of the elements of the RFP and the guidelines, focus on some highlights from the application, and then, as Kevin mentioned, we will have a Q&A session. And we ask you as we go through the presentation, feel free to start typing in your questions. They will be reviewed by our team, and we'll bring them up in the order they came in at the end of the session. We remind you that for this session, if you can, please keep the questions broad, as we have a broad audience. If you have specific questions that are very applicable to your community or to your particular project, please feel free to send those questions to our email account at eohedgrants@mass.gov, and we will review and we can respond. We will be posting a frequently asked questions document on the website as well after this session. So we'll start with a very broad overview. The Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development is making funds available through the FY2021 round of the Urban Agenda Grant Program. The program is designed to support proposals from eligible communities for projects that are community-driven responses to community-defined opportunities, essentially. We offer grant funding, general operating funds generally, and on a competitive basis to local partnerships in the selected communities. And we're looking for projects that are based on this creative collaborative work models with the goal of advancing, as we mentioned, community defined projects. In terms of the of this year's round and the RFP and the guidelines, we did want to highlight a few key things that are new. This past year in December, the Baker Polito administration did unveil their new economic development plan. It's entitled Partnerships for Growth, a plan to enable the Commonwealth's regions to build, connect, and lead. It has a whole comprehensive list of items that our office and the administration is looking to implement over the next 4 years. And they're primarily organized in these 4 pillars. One of them is respond to the housing crisis, build vibrant communities, support business competitiveness, and train a skilled workforce. This past month, given the unprecedented and far-reaching impact of the global pandemic, the administration worked together with our secretariat to prepare and release a new plan called Partnerships for Recovery. And this is focused on obviously all of the efforts and the resources that are being brought to bear to support our communities during these very difficult times. And given this urgent need in communities, the Urban Agenda program in this round is going to be primarily seeking proposals that are going to be focused on developing and implementing economic recovery strategies. We will again be prioritizing funding to projects that align with the recommendations from the Governor's Black Advisory Commission and the Latino Advisory Commission, particularly to the extent that the pandemic has been disproportionately difficult in low-income and minority communities. And finally, I want to just make the note and the caveat that the state's operating budget is still being debated and reviewed by the state legislature. And so these funds, which are in the operating budget, are subject to appropriation in that budget. And I made a note here just that the plans, if anybody's interested in the specific plans, they are available on our website at www.mass.gov/HED. So in the RFP and the guidelines, we again want to highlight key elements. Please note that the maximum award in this round that we'll be looking for is $100,000. The total funds available at the moment is $2.5 million. Again, subject to state budget appropriation once that's finalized, but that's what we anticipate. The use, as I've already mentioned, is general operating support to communities. A change that we did make certainly this year is that we will make these grants, and we'll be expecting that the projects that are proposed can be completed and that the funds can be fully expended no later than June 30th, 2021. We will follow a similar disbursement that we've done in the past, where 50% of the grant is issued at the time of signing the contract, and the second half of the grant will be issued upon the completion of the quarterly report for the period ending June 30th, 2021. Eligible communities in the RFP, we list out the communities that are eligible. Generally, these are urban centers, and we also applied household income benchmarks to come up with the list of eligible communities for this program. The eligible lead applicant, we're looking for either the municipality itself to be the lead applicant, or it could be a community-based organization. And then the eligible project partners can be a mix of all types of organizations. You can work with schools, local business associations like chambers, private sector partners, neighborhood-based associations, etc. And the key component here again is that, as I'll outline a little later, is that the applications must come in with the support of the municipality, whether or not they are the lead applicant. And the municipality, if they are the lead applicant, must come in with the support of a lead community organization. Next, we have the key dates that are coming up for this. Some have passed, obviously. We opened the round on November 16th. And this session today marks our informational webinar for all prospective applicants. The deadline for this application will be Friday, December 18th at 5 p.m. We anticipate using the month of December and January to review and score the applications and to notify awardees no later than February 2021. And still on the RFP and guidelines, again, we will be considering applications from communities similar to how we've run the program in the past. We're looking for established coalitions and/or collaborations that have a track record of working together. Each eligible community may only submit one application to the program. This is an important distinction. And we only make the exception for cities with populations over 150,000. And in those cases, the city has the option to either submit one citywide proposal for a citywide project, or allow multiple neighborhoods, clearly defined neighborhoods, to submit a proposal. And in those cases, the neighborhood proposals also need to be in partnership with the municipality, nevertheless. And the applicants should be basing their proposals on locally significant economic opportunities. Again, in this round, we will be giving priority to collaborations that are proposing to develop or implement strategies for the pandemic economic recovery. The key, as it has been in the past, is always that the project is a direct response to a need that the community has defined together through various processes, through these collaborations or coalitions. Also in the guidelines, I want to highlight all of the applications will be reviewed and scored on a 100-point scale on the following criteria. And these are, I'll spell these out more in detail when we go through the application. And just a note that we have made for anyone that is proposing a project that relates to workforce development and or training, we do expect to see that they are aligned or reference the regional labor market blueprint, as well as either talk about a consultation, or that you actually have the mass hire, your local mass hire office as a partner. Now, moving into the application, this is on the screen. I've just kind of highlighted the elements of the actual application. In the first part, we're looking for a description of the partnership generally, its purpose, what the work has been done, general activities, etc. That's just to give the reader or the reviewer of the application kind of context, if you will, for helping understand the work of the collaboration or the coalition. The first item is the applicant's track record. Here we're looking specifically for the experience of the coalition, its history, specific past successes, etc. The vision and goals is where you are helping us understand um, the broader context of the community, the neighborhood, or a city or a town, um, and what issue or circumstances have led to the development of this project. Does then outline for us the what the project intends to achieve, and how it aligns with that broader vision. And essentially, if applicable, describe how the project aligns with one or more of the recommendations from either the Black Advisory Commission or the Latino Advisory Commission. In community collaborations and partnerships, we are looking for descriptions of how the actual coalition was formed, what was the kind of the impetus, and describe what makes the group innovative or special in the circumstances of the community. This is where you would identify who are the partners, and I would just point out in this list we've had mixed results in the past. We're looking for the 3, 4, to 6 of the key partners that are part of the coalition that are actively carrying out components of the work. It's not necessary to list out, every single individual. More broadly, we're looking for kind of a sense of the diversity of the group, a sense of the diversity of organizations, etc. And certainly, we do invite you to list any institutional partners, corporations, etc., that might be involved, providing financial coordination and/or staff support. The next part in the application is called the economic opportunity, the project plan. I will stress here, as you will note from the application, this is where the bulk of the points will be assigned. This is really kind of where you're describing the actual project that you're proposing. This is where you're pitching to us why it is that you need the funding, and what it is exactly you intend to carry out. And so it's important to, again, to really focus the attention on this section in terms of the way you respond to this RFP. You will describe the specific challenge that you're trying to address, what role the members of the target population played in identifying these opportunities, how it is aligned to the identified opportunities for the community, and then we ask for specifics around the target participants, what types of services will be provided, and what are the anticipated outcomes. And again, if there is alignment with any of the recommendations from the Black Advisory Commission or the Latino Advisory Commission that relate to either the pandemic recovery efforts or the economic advancement of minority communities, this is where you would want to highlight that. As I always say to any of the communities that have reached out, sometimes asking questions about the program, don't be afraid to embellish, to really tell the story of what you're trying to accomplish. But I do want to stress the importance of the community-defined problem in the way that we use that here for this program. We're not looking for an academic description of what the problem is. We're looking for what the community has defined the problem to be and how this coalition is set up to try to address that issue. And then finally, we have the capacity to succeed. This is where you'll outline the target dates, the activities and milestones. Again, we're looking for these to be outlined for all activities through June 30th, 2021. The third part of the application is the budget, of course. We have outlined some categories. We're asking for you to break down how much you're requesting for each of the spending categories and then the total. If there is no requirement for match funds in this program. However, if you do have contributions either from the municipality or from some of the partner organizations, including in-kind support. Please outline that here and tie it back to the spending categories, provide the total project budget, and then describe the source of the matches. And we ask that those be non-state sources for the match. So if you have any federal grants or municipal grant, if you have private philanthropy grants that have come in that are part of this project or donations, these would all be appropriate to list here. And in terms of overall highlights, again, the deadline is Friday, December 18th at 5 p.m. All proposals must be submitted via email to eohedgrants@mass.gov. A full package or complete package or packet that we would expect as a submission would be the cover page that is outlined, the proposal narrative. Generally, we're looking for those not to exceed 7 pages, and then the budget form. And then we do have a requirement that you submit 2 letters, one from the municipality, whether from the municipal CEO in particular, and then one from the main community partner. Regardless of which of the 2 is the lead applicant, the actual applicant that will put their name on the application, we do require a letter from each of those. And we ask that you read the instructions carefully, work through all of the questions, and submit your packet as one complete PDF for the sections that are outlined: the cover page, the narrative, the budget form, and the 2 lead letters. You do have the opportunity, if you'd like, to submit optional attachments. Sometimes communities want to submit letters from their other community partners that may be supporting the project, etc. Or maybe there's a particular component or flyer. We do ask that you keep these to a minimum. They will be kind of filed with the application, but keep in mind they will not be reviewed as part of the formal scoring of the application, and therefore, we do ask you to keep those to a minimum. The optional attachments can be, again, put together into one PDF and submitted as a second PDF to the application. That's an important distinction. Keep the main application together as one document. Okay, so that gets us through the primary components of the presentation. We now would like to move to the Q&A portion. To kind of kick us off, I did want to start with some questions that we generally tend to get every year. So I will start with that, and then we'll ask John Way to help us work through any of the questions that may have come through the Q&A section here in WebEx. So the first question is certainly that will be on folks' mind is whether any applicant in a previous round or the most recent round is eligible to apply. And the answer is yes. Any application from the 53 eligible communities may apply to this round, regardless of whether or not they received a grant in a previous round. I will, however, qualify that by saying that if you were to be selected again in this round and you were part of the 2020 round, you will be expected to demonstrate that all funds have been completely expended and your final quarter report has been filed before we will issue a new contract. The next question is, we get a lot of questions around whether is my type of organization eligible. We'll say generally we wouldn't be able to provide kind of specific verification for every single type of organization, but we do believe that we have the ability to fund any duly established charitable, public, and/or nonprofit organization. Generally speaking, organizations or entities that might be ineligible would be a for-profit company, a private business, etc., or any type of organization that might otherwise be prohibited by law to receive state funding. And the eligibility issue is really to be determined locally the by the community, as is the issue of who will be the lead applicant. That is a choice to be made locally. The municipality needs to play a key role here. They may be the lead applicant. They don't need to be the lead applicant, but they certainly need to be a partner. And we leave that to the communities to work together on developing who will be the actual applicant. Ideally, we look for the lead applicant to be an organization that is already confirmed as a state vendor. It facilitates the contracting. However, that is not a requirement. You'll just need to do some extra paperwork if you were to be selected and have never received a state grant before. As far as we will say the additional on the eligibility question, while the other types of organizations may not be eligible to be lead applicants, and we do look to the organization that is the lead applicant to figure out again and work with the local coalition to distribute. The organization can distribute funding through subcontract arrangements, again to be determined locally, and that's an important distinction here. The third item, is there a limit to the number of applications that my community can submit? And the answer is absolutely yes. The Urban Agenda program will only accept one application from each eligible community, except in the case of the larger cities, as was outlined. This is important because if we do receive more than one application from a community that is otherwise not eligible to submit multiple applications, we will be in a situation where we would not really be able to score these applications, and we'll determine both, or if there are two or more, we'll consider them to all be ineligible for consideration. In part, as was mentioned, the program is designed this way. And frankly, it also speaks to sometimes the lack of coordination that may be happening at the local level, and that makes it difficult to be able to judge these applications. In the case of the larger cities, the same dynamic applies. We will be looking for either the city to submit one complete application that covers a citywide project, still needing to be done in a coalition, or coming in from distinct neighborhoods. And the same rule applies if we get more than one application from the same neighborhood. We will deem those applications, all applications, ineligible from that from that neighborhood, because it'll be difficult to judge or distinguish or score them in relation to others. All applications essentially are being reviewed in competition with all the other applications from all the other communities, and will be reviewed, scored, and then ranked that way. Okay, so those are the primary questions that we've usually gotten, and I want to now ask John Way if there are any questions in the queue.
Sure, thank you, Juan. Yes, definitely. The first question that came up was, sorry, I missed when the second half of the grant would be issued. And maybe, Juan, this is a good time for previous applicants because there is a slight difference this year to explain about the second half of the grant.
Sure, in terms of how the disbursement is scheduled?
Yes, the second disbursement.
Sure. So at the time, once we make selections, grantees will receive an award letter. At that time, we will be asked to complete the paperwork for the contract. Upon execution of that contract, meaning the signatures from the lead applicant as well as the representative from HUD have been completed, we will issue 50% of the grant at that time. And that presumably happens sometime in February, assuming that we get all the completed paperwork back, and we issue that first half of the grant. The second half of the grant will then be, or the remaining part of the grant will then be issued once we receive a completed quarterly report for the period ending June 30th, 2021, that demonstrates that the project has been completed and that all funds have been committed or obligated, encumbered, etc. At that point, we will then issue the remaining portion of the funds, the second 50%.
Second question that came up is, if awarded, when must the full funding be spent?
Thank you. So again, unlike this past year, given mainly because our priority is to select projects that are working on recovery efforts, pandemic recovery efforts, and given the urgency that all communities will be facing now in the spring, as we make our way through the situation with the pandemic now, and as a lot of the we anticipate that there be a very difficult spring in terms of the management of the pandemic, as well as trying to implement recovery efforts as the temperatures rise in the spring, et cetera, and try to get back to more activity. We do anticipate that the projects all be completed and that funds be obligated and or expended no later than June 30th, 2021.
Third question that came up is, can two community-based organizations be partners? If yes, which one will be the lead?
So absolutely, we expect that all applications that come into the urban agenda will be from partnerships that have multiple organizations and also include the municipality. So it's the municipality with the lead community organization, and we do definitely expect partnerships with multiple organizations. The selection or decision of who should be the lead applicant is to be determined locally. Again, we are looking for established coalitions and collaborations, which hopefully have some leadership structure or have kind of usually there's a lead organization that serves as either a fiscal agent to the coalition or kind of the lead, the main offices, etc. But that the determination of who's the actual applicant and the lead applicant for this program is to be determined locally. We expect that to be something that the community organizations work out amongst themselves.
If a community was a prior recipient of an urban agenda grant, will that have a bearing on being awarded another urban agenda grant in this round?
I would say generally no. And I'll qualify that in a second why I say that, but this is a brand new round. All 53 communities are eligible again, regardless of whether you received the grant before. And particularly because this round is focused on recovery efforts from the pandemic, that's really the focus, and we're looking for strong projects that are coming forward to work on recovery efforts. My qualification is just, as we review these and score these applications, I will say, in the unlikely event that we have a set of, 2 or 3 organizations that have strong projects and have all similarly ranked, There may be a preference for a community organization that has never received an urban agenda grant before. But that is kind of at the very end determination that may be made. Really, it's about the strength of the application and the score that the application receives being first and foremost. And so, again, back to what I was saying, when you put together your the economic opportunity plan in the application, be sure to highlight why this project is significant, what how does it stand apart. This is not a time to be shy about highlighting the successes of the coalition, of the collaboration, and why the project, why this particular collaboration is well positioned to carry out this work. So, yeah, first and foremost, strong applications that score well and come out of the review well will always be given top consideration, regardless of whether they received a grant in the past.
Next question is, will gateway cities receive any special consideration?
In terms of the eligible communities, all of the gateway cities are included, and the intent of the program was to have this open to gateway cities and non-gateway cities. I would say just the designation of gateway city would just the designation by itself does not necessarily provide any particular consideration. But to the extent, again, we're focused on pandemic economic recovery, to the extent that gateway cities are being disproportionately affected, that's going to play a role. But it's only going to play a role to the extent that the application does a good job of describing the need, describing the project, and coming forward with a strong project.
Next question is, could you please confirm that a business accelerator / business training program is considered as addressing the pandemic, meaning essentially, quote unquote, getting people back to work?
Apologies, John Wayne. Can you repeat that?
Sure, it's a long one. Confirming that a business accelerator / business training program is considered as addressing the pandemic, essentially getting people back to work.
So yes, again, to the extent that in the way we've organized the questions, you will describe to us the specific need, the extent to which the community coalition or the neighborhood group has determined that this is the top priority for that community, and therefore everybody wants to focus their efforts on that. Providing small business support. We've highlighted in the examples in this RFP. We know, particularly again in gateway cities and communities that have large minority business or minority-owned businesses, there's been kind of a disproportionate impact in terms of them missing out on some of these federal programs, for example. And so that's an example of a program where if you're going to assist local communities or entrepreneurs to be able to access and training and resources to bring jobs to the community, and that's what the community group has decided is a priority, then those would be that's a strong project. Again, it's to the extent that it's tied to economic recovery for that community.
Next question is to build on the question of whether current or previous urban agenda grantees can apply. Are you looking for a new program from these applicants, or can an existing applicant or former applicant apply to continue an existing program?
It's an interesting question. I would say that we really want to emphasize the economic recovery component of this, and so to the extent that an established program or a program that's been supported in a prior round is the community's response, is the way the community has defined it wants to move forward in this recovery environment, then yeah, then I would say that that would be fine. That's not um, um, that would not be a problem. Um, However, just continuing a program that was existing and it kind of disconnected from the recovery effort, um, it may not, again, we're going to focus the scoring and the review on the extent to which it helps the community with its recovery efforts. Um, an existing program that is going to just continue doing what it's done before without kind of really tying it to why this is needed at this time during COVID recovery. Um, it, it may not score as well if it isn't tied to the need now.
Next question is, so it seems a municipality must be involved in the coalition, right?
That's correct. That's an important component of the way we've designed this program. The municipality, we are looking for a community-based program or community-based project, and the extent to which we can utilize these resources to prop up or support or advance these community-based coalitions. And for those of you that have applied before will recall that we referenced a lot the Boston Federal Reserve's uh, communities, the communities program where there was funding for these robust partnerships, um, and essentially we're looking to support this in the context that research has certainly told us that community efforts that are kind of based on these community-led um, responses have a better ability to be sustained over time. Certainly, past the annual, we are only able to do this urban agenda grant program once a year, and it's dependent on the legislature and whether or not we have a grant program. The community's ability to carry out economic activity together is what we're trying to promote here. And the extent to which the municipality, in many cases, needs to play a lead role in that because um, there are resources that the municipality may have that that the community organizations can benefit from, um, and that's how we have designed the program.
Thank you, Mark. Next question is, since economic recovery from the COVID crisis is a key focus of this round, will it be an eligible use of funds if part of a proposed grant concept involves funding supports for small business entrepreneurs?
So if I understand the question, I'm assuming they're asking about, and this may be one that we want to expand on in the frequently asked questions document after this session. But because a similar question may be asked about support for families. I think if the question is related to providing direct grants to entrepreneurs for their efforts, we have generally in the past been supportive of utilizing the funds to promote. We've funded, for example, a pitch contest in the past where there was an award to the winning entrepreneur. We've provided stipends sometimes to individuals to participate in community organizing efforts. But I think we'll want to expand a little bit about on this in the FAQ after, and mainly because there are existing state and federal programs that are providing direct grants to entrepreneurs and to small businesses, as well as to families. And so we're not looking to duplicate or replicate efforts here. And so I would say, to the extent that the funding is used to pay for trainers or consultants or coaches to work with entrepreneurs, that is certainly an eligible use. If the question is related to providing direct grants to entrepreneurs or to others, that may be something we want to further understand, particularly with our finance office, on the eligible use of funds and address through an FAQ.
Thank you, Juan. The next question is situation scenarios question. Hello, I am the CEO of a social justice organization that will be based in Worcester. For the letter from the municipality, would I need to get a letter from the city of Worcester mayor?
We generally ask for the letters to come from the municipal CEO, and you know, whether that's the mayor or in a place, I believe in Worcester would be probably the city manager. Again, it's important. One individual in Boston and in Worcester, as well as Springfield, it can be the mayor or it can be the city manager. However, keep in mind that we expect to get multiple applications from multiple neighborhoods in those communities. All the letters should be organized from the same office. So I would say speak to your local officials, figure out who is going to be signing the letter, but it should be the same person signing the letter for all the applications from that community. It would not be okay to get some letters from a city manager and some letters from a mayor, some letters from the council president, etc. It needs, whoever the municipal lead is, that person should be signing the support letter for all applications coming from that community.
Next question: can we
I would just add that that also speaks to the local coordination and the collaboration that may or may not be happening in the community. Thank you.
Next question: can we submit a proposal in partnership with more than one eligible community involved?
So if I understand this correctly, so for one organization to submit on behalf of multiple communities, is that?
Yes, that's okay. What is that you're asking.
Okay, so and we've had this question in the past. I would say the answer is no. This is not a program for any specific organization. We are looking to fund a community collaboration. And so it's not an individual organization as much as the organization's programming might be good. We're not funding organizations, we're funding communities. Now, having said that, we have had in the past one organization that has been a partner in multiple communities, and including that organization being the lead applicant for that community. But that gets decided locally by the local coalition. If they want, organization X to be their lead applicant, fine. And that organization X happens to also be asked, and it has been an active member in a different community and is also asked to be the lead applicant for the second community, that would be fine. But the organization doesn't submit an application and say, I want to work in 3 communities. It's 3 communities apply and ask for support. And whether who happens to be the lead applicant in each of those three applications is less of a, less of an issue, and it could be the same organization that shows up multiple times. But I do want to stress that this is not, we are looking to fund the communities, community collaborations that have, a diverse set of members and active participants that include the municipality, it could include the chamber, it could include your local CDC, et cetera. And we're not looking to fund a specific organization to do work. We're looking to fund these coalitions. And therefore, each application from each community is distinct and unique, and whether it needs to come in again with the lead applicant. If that lead applicant happens to show up in another application from another community as the lead applicant, that's fine. But one applicant of one organization cannot just submit kind of its own application and say, I'm going to do projects in 3 communities. Thank you.
The next question is, if funds aren't approved until January or February, what is the expectation for expenditures? Could they be retroactive to January 1st?
That's a great question. I just paused because it's possible that we can do that. We may, again, it's going to be based on what the proposed project is, and assuming that it's, that it's a project that's already happening. If it's something that's already starting and happening, regardless of whether you get this grant or not, and this grant is going to support that effort, there may be a possibility that we can include funding, but that will, again, that's something that would need to be cleared by our finance office. And there's still a few moving parts, again, with state budget that need to be resolved before we can make that commitment. But let's make a note of that, Wei, and we'll try to address it through the FAQ. But it's possible. It is possible, but I would say generally probably the safest bet is to plan for your expenditures to happen between February and June. And that's an important distinction as well to keep in mind in terms of the amount of funding you ask for. You can ask for up to $100,000. However, be sure that you're going to be able to spend that amount by June 30th. And that may include, not being able to use the funding for expenses. It may be that you can't use them until starting March 1st, for example. So you need to plan for that contingency as well. We will look into whether we can, if awarded, would we be able to cover expenses prior to the contract execution? But that's a determination to be made by the finance office, and I wouldn't be able to answer that today. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. The next question is, you mentioned that all funds have to be committed or encumbered by June 30th. To clarify, if the funds are encumbered, could work continue past June 30th as long as it is recovery related?
So certainly the work, so we, given again the tight time frame, we will accept, for example, there may be a subcontract agreement fully executed locally, whereby the lead applicant commits to paying organization Y to carry out services, or there's a fully executed and signed commitment with the consultant that's going to do training. If that training then isn't scheduled to happen until the summer, that may be fine. We will be, in order for the reimbursement on our end, we will expect that commitment, however, be already in writing by June 30th. Even if the actual activity that is going to be carried out might happen in the summer. Similarly, projects around small business support, whereby again you might be funding a consultant to carry out training or a coach to work with entrepreneurs. The actual work may not happen to the summer, but we would expect that any arrangements, agreements, commitments of dollars made by June 30th, and that you submit that evidence as part of the quarterly report.
Yuan, and next question. This is somewhat specific to the bigger communities like Boston, Worcester, and Springfield. If only a limited number of applications from a municipality are accepted, is there a streamlined way to find out if other community organizations in a specific Boston neighborhood are planning to apply?
That's a good question. Again, we look for and so to be clear, we're speaking about Boston, Worcester, and Springfield are the only three communities that have populations over 150,000 where this would apply. What we ask is that any interested community organizations, coalitions, or collaborations connect, right away with their municipal offices. When we get these applications, we expect there to be coordination from a local level. I will say that in the Boston office, in Boston, the grants office, and which I believe is led by Inez Foster, has been the one that coordinates all the Boston applications in the past. Similarly, the city manager's office in Worcester, and we expect the mayor's office in Springfield to be the ones that will coordinate all the applications from the community. But they should definitely all go up to a central location. And I would just say to all the interested applicants, start with the municipal CEO office, and they may have somebody assigned to do that, to be able to coordinate what those efforts are. And just to make a note, we're at the 10 o'clock hour, and we do have we have a few more questions, Zhangwei, in the queue.
A few more.
Okay, we can continue. Maybe we'll, if Kevin, if you're able to shut off the Q&A section now. Any further questions after now, we can certainly you can certainly submit directly to our email account. But we'll finish up the remaining questions now.
If two municipalities are in partnership with one another, would they be eligible to apply?
Interesting.
This, to clarify, Ron, it's almost like MassWorks, the dual application type.
Yeah. So, okay, so this is interesting. We certainly, in many of our grant programs at HED, absolutely promote and encourage regional efforts and responses. I would say, it would have to be a fairly unique situation whereby there's a coalitions in two different towns that are broad enough that can come together to respond to, again, COVID recovery efforts. But if in fact there is such a thing, that there are, maybe adjacent communities that have developed a regional response and can demonstrate that they have, robust collaborations that include community organizations and the municipal leaders, and maybe that, if it's a business related program, you have the chamber involved, things like that, then yes, I would say, that we would certainly entertain that. It would be unique, however, in a situation like this, because we are looking for these collaborations, and those tend to be very local. But if there is a circumstance where there is a regional kind of cross municipal collaboration that is happening, we'd love to hear about it. And as we do with many of our programs, we generally prioritize and like to encourage and promote and support efforts that are broad-based.
Second to last question. For workforce, some of the upskilling training for pre-identified jobs may take longer to complete before they get the job. Do participants have to be employed by June 30th as part of the grant timeline?
I would say no, certainly not. Understanding, and we have funded workforce development projects in the past, and certainly understand the time frame we're talking about here. This program and this grant would just be looking to fund whatever the activities are between February and June. So in your application, you would want to, I mean, you certainly want to describe what the overall goal is, but you would want to, especially in the target dates and milestones, carve out the part that you believe you can realistically accomplish within, by June 30th. And that certainly we would not expect, unless you're already doing the training and you're going to now be doing maybe the job placement coaching part, like the back end of the program. But if you're just starting with the training, we certainly do not expect to have job placement numbers or anything like that by that June 30th deadline. Just be sure in your application to carve out what it is that you are going to be using the funding for in this time frame.
Last question. It sounds as if only 50% of the grant would be dispersed prior to a June 30th quarterly report, and yet grantees are expected to expend all grant funds by June 30th. Does that mean recipients must quote-unquote front the second 50% of grant expenditures?
I'm sorry, read the first part again.
Sure, it was a statement. It sounds as if only 50% of the grant would be dispersed prior to a June 30th quarterly report, and yet grantees are expected to expend all grant funds by June 30th, meaning that must be spent by June 30th. Does that mean recipients must front the second 50% of grant expenditures?
So I think that the direct answer is yes. However, this would be no different than, this is a cost reimbursement arrangement, just like all of our other grant programs, and many of the state programs, right? Whether you're working with labor office or the Department of Public Health, it's a cost reimbursement contract. And what we're doing differently is that we are fronting up a lot of the money before you've been able to demonstrate that you've expended it. And so we're putting up 50% at the beginning to kind of get all these projects kind of rolling. But this is a cost reimbursement program, as most state grants are. And so you would be expected to make the expenditures and then demonstrate that you've expended it, and then request reimbursement for those expenditures. And so that's no different than here. We just we are able to put the 50% up front, and then presumably by the midpoint, after a couple of months, you will work through that first half of the grant. And then by the time you come in June, you'll essentially be requesting reimbursement of what you've spent in May and June, let's say.
That's the last and final question for today.
Okay, great. So thank you very much to everyone who's participated in this session. We are, as we've mentioned, the email account, the EOHUD grants@mass.gov, is the email account where you're able to submit additional questions, especially if you have specific questions for your community or for your project. We'd be happy to entertain those, and we'll take them. We won't be answering them directly. We will take them and try to aggregate them and post them in a frequently asked questions document that will be put up on the website. Friday, December 18th is the deadline for the applications. Please read through the RFP carefully, particularly the component that describes the packet that needs to be submitted as a response. We do anticipate, or we do ask that you submit one PDF with the full packet that has the 4 elements, and then a second PDF if you are intending to submit other optional attachments. That helps in terms of the way we distribute these for the readers and the reviewers that are going to be helping us with the evaluation of all these applications. We wish everyone luck in this round, and thank you very much for your attention. As was mentioned, this information will be posted on the website, and please keep an eye on the website for any, that's where we'll post the most up-to-date information about the program. Again, thank you to John Way, and to Kevin and Mark and the rest of the team that have supported this webinar this morning, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.